Everybody, it's me, your buddy Dave from the Dark Stuff channel here on YouTube. I also have a website, thedarkstuff.com. Welcome to the latest video. So, friends, my favorite band in the entire world, Kiss, calling it quits this week. And it's hitting me a little bit harder than I thought it would, and I felt like sharing some of my final thoughts on the band with you here today. So before I get started, I just want to point out I do have some other Kiss videos, and there's a YouTube playlist with all of them. And if you just go to my channel, you click playlist, you find Kiss related, that's where it is. I've also made streaming playlists for Kiss. It's called the Kiss Best 100. These are my favorite 100 songs. Doesn't have to be your favorite 100. I made them for Apple and Spotify, and the links for those are down below, just to get that out of the way, okay? So I'm recording this on Friday, November 24th, 2023, also known as Black Friday. It's Friday night. I'm here in the bunker listening to Kiss, as you can see on the screen there, and just kind of thinking about the last show, which is coming up 1 week from tomorrow. If you're keeping up on Kiss news, you know that Kiss did have to cancel a couple of recent shows due to illness from Paul. He posted on his Twitter and Instagram and stuff that he is pretty ill. You know, they think these guys are just going to stay young forever, but the fact is they are getting up there in late 60s, early 70s with Gene and Paul. And they've had to cancel a couple of shows, which means they're not going to be able to make those shows up. There's only a handful of days left before the final show. Tonight's show in Knoxville was canceled. Tomorrow night, the 25th, is Indianapolis. So fingers crossed that one happens and they're able to ride out and do the rest of the shows, with the final show being December 2nd at Madison Square Garden. It is going to be on a pay-per-view, and I'm going back and forth whether I want to do it or not. I don't know. I mean, part of me really wants to, and I don't know. Yeah, it's Friday, November 24th. Like I said, it was Record Store Day, and I did pick up this Kiss-related record, Eric Carr, Rockology, on the 32nd anniversary of Eric's passing. Rest in peace. But I did get the picture disc at Record Store Day today. Over the 40-plus years that I've been a Kiss fan, I've bought a million different records and CDs and tapes and whatever. And one thing in all that time that I've never had my hands on, and that's because I don't buy records online. I don't do eBay or Discogs or whatever. I only like going in the wild and finding stuff. The very first Kiss record, which I've had, okay, obviously since I was a kid, but this is the version without Kissing Time. So the first pressing, the original version, the way Kiss wanted it, the best version of their best album, and I finally got it, and it just got me thinking that, you know, with the band ending in a week, I really wanted to kind of get my thoughts together and make a video about it, because this is the last time for me to talk about them while they're still an active band. So just so you know, I'm not working on any notes. There's no script here. This is just going to be me speaking from the heart. I'm going to try and edit in different photos and videos and things that I've taken over the years. Like I said, my fandom goes back more than 40 years, but I would say it really kicked in to high gear probably about 1983 when I was 12. Kiss wasn't just my favorite band. They were like a gigantic part of my identity. I mean, everybody knew me as the guy that liked Kiss back when I was in junior high and high school and stuff. That if you didn't even know who I was in school, and plenty of people didn't know me, believe me, but they knew that I was like the Kiss guy, okay? So it was a massive part of my identity. And one of the reasons why I grabbed onto Kiss so hard when I was 12 back then, and that was right the Lick It Up era when that album came out. Now, I obviously knew Kiss earlier than that. I grew up as a child in the 70s, so they were part of pop culture at that point. But I wasn't really starting to buy records until like 81, 82 or something like that, and the first real Kiss record that I latched onto was Lick It Up. I've always said, you know, just sort of anecdotally to people, that I don't think it's possible for someone to become a massive Kiss fan, like to the point where you're devoted like me and to the people who are watching this video, unless you caught on to Kiss before you hit, say, age 15. Okay? Because if you are exposed to Kiss for the first time when you're 25 or whatever, you're going to think it's silly. You're going to have a hard time just like buying into the whole concept and just sort of letting yourself go. Kiss music is designed for 14-year-old boys for the most part, girls too, but I mean, it's basically targeted at 14, 15-year-old boys. And when I was a kid, I was the perfect target. They sing songs about freedom, and there's always have kind of hot chicks around them and stuff. And when I was 12, seeing these guys with all these girls who, I didn't know they were just paid models just to be there or whatever, but I didn't know that. I thought, man, these guys were bagging these crazy hot women. Like, this is the kind of lifestyle I want to lead. I want to be like them. Those videos back then for like Lick It Up and All Hell's Breaking Loose and Tears Are Falling, Who Wants to Be Lonely, All Night, whatever. I mean, I watched those things religiously. MTV played the crap out of those. It was a good time to be a Kiss fan back then because, frankly, they were all over MTV, and the media was giving them another chance because they had all but considered Kiss dead prior. But I love the whole message. I love the it felt like about freedom, and you could just, free expression, do what you want, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do this or that, and I really, really bought into that. I loved it. Okay. Another big part of the reason why I liked Kiss so much was because Gene and Paul were Jewish. Okay. I'm Jewish myself. And growing up in the 70s and 80s when I did, there were plenty of Jewish people who were musicians and actors and whatever, and in show business and whatever. But it used to be a thing where you would hide that part of your identity, right? You didn't want to appear too ethnic or whatever, or especially too Jewish. And so people changed their names. I mean, that's not the reason why Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley did it, but it's certainly a factor. I mean, I don't think they'd be talking about Stanley Eisen, the Star Child. I mean, it just wouldn't be, or Chaim Witz, the Demon. It doesn't work, right? So I loved the fact that they didn't hide who they were. It wasn't a part of Kiss or a big part of their identity, but everybody knew Gene was from Israel. Everybody knew he spoke Hebrew and knew his mother's experience in the concentration camps and stuff. I think every fan was aware of that. Paul had a similar experience with his family. And they never masked that. They were proud of it. And I latched on to that because there was nobody else out there that was like that. So I really, really connected, I thought, with Kiss because I liked the freedom, the message. I was 12. I loved the what I thought was just this crazy rock and roll lifestyle that they were leading, and that they were Jewish guys, and that maybe I could aspire towards that as well. Like, I'm just this Jewish kid from New York, from Omaha, not from New York. My family's from New York. I'm actually from Nebraska. But anyways, and that I could aspire to these rock and roll heights. Now, I can't play an instrument or sing or whatever, so it didn't work out for me in that regard. But I was so obsessed with Kiss about age 13, 14, 15 that I started my own fanzine, Kiss Rocks the World fanzine. If you were a subscriber, please hit me up, let me know. There weren't that many of you, mine, this is a nicer one. Most of mine were photocopied, looking really shitty, but I was obsessed with Kiss to that degree that just out of nowhere, nobody asked me to do that. I just made up my own fanzine. I just wanted to do it. I wanted to be a part of it. I felt like compelled, like I couldn't not do it, I did the fanzine, I did that for a couple of years. And then eventually I got to high school and I was the feature editor of the high school newspaper, and then ultimately the editor. And in that time I wrote plenty of articles about Kiss. They were completely non-objective fanboy, articles for sure. Now that I look back on them, I found a couple of scans of some of them. It's strange now looking back. I was a little bit prescient in when I was age 17. Because I did a review for Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, and I just gushed about it, of course, But I made a point that in the video for Let's Put the X in Sex, that it looked like Gene didn't really know the song, like he'd never heard it before. And there is a little bit to that, because those were kind of Paul demos that became Kiss songs. That's a side note. I do that sometimes. I go off on tangents. So when I was a kid, in my room, much to my father's annoyance, I had Kiss posters everywhere, all over the walls, starting from about age like 12, all through high school, all through college, tons of Kiss posters all over the place. Still do now. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you can't really see very well back here, there are Kiss stuff on the walls. I haven't done a room tour in like 7 or 8 years, so nobody really knows what it looks like back there. But back there is a couple of really cool items, actually. I mean, I have the Spin magazine covers from the reunion tour in 96 where they made the 4 different covers. I got all 4 of those. I have a giant plaque back there of some Ace records that I got signed when I got to meet him in 2016. There's those little Russian dolls there on there. My parents made a trip to Russia back 10, 15 years ago and brought back those little the famous kind of Russian dolls that all fit into one another. They're all mislabeled, by the way. They all say the wrong guy on them. It's kind of funny. You know, throughout the 80s, I saw all the tours. I saw the Lick It Up. I saw Asylum. I saw Crazy Nights. You know, here's actually, I couldn't find a lot of my t-shirts. Most of them have disintegrated over the years, but here's my Crazy Nights one. Okay. Over the years, starting back in the 80s, I have been able to meet a lot of members of Kiss. Not everybody, but I've met Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Eric Carr, Bruce Kulick, talked to Vinnie Vincent on the phone, and I talked to Mark St. John on the phone for interviews for that fanzine back in the day. I've never met Peter. That's definitely kind of like a bucket list thing. Would still love to meet him. And I never have met Eric Singer or Tommy Thayer. You know, I loved all of those 80s shows. I mean, I really did. I had such a good time. And that was my era growing up. The Bruce Kulick, Eric Carr era, for the most part, was the Kiss stuff that I grew up in. And I thoroughly loved all those tours. But I was always looking back and kind of hoping secretly that the original band, would someday get back together, because I didn't experience that 70s stuff for real. It was all, I mean, if you were a Kiss collector in, say, 1986, all you sought after was videotapes with old clips from them on TV and all concert clips and everything from the 70s. You just wanted magazines with them in the 70s. You know, you wanted the comic books from the 70s. The McFarlane ones are cool, but these were the OGs, you know? So that was the kind of stuff that you were really, really looking for back then, was all looking backwards. So like I said, I did get to talk to Vinnie Vincent and Mark St. John. So I did follow all of the Kiss guys post Kiss. So here's one thing I wanted to share. This is my old address book from when I was a little kid, and where I used to put everyone's number and stuff. And I found this recently. I was digging around in my parents' house. Here is the number. I don't want to show some of these other numbers. Okay, this was Mark St. John's manager after he left Kiss. There's his phone number in there. Okay, so I spoke with him about that. And then the real one that you guys are going to freak out on is this. There's no other ones on here. Okay, now if you can't read that, I'll probably scan it. It says Mrs. Carl Frehley. It was in Bronx, New York, and it had a phone number, a 212 phone number. And that was Ace's mom. I was such a dogged journalist for Kiss that I actually called information and found out what Ace's mom's number. Her number was not unlisted or anything. It was public. So I got her number and I called her. We spoke a couple of times, actually. She was really, really nice, you know. I didn't take up too much of her time. I tried to limit it to 5 to 10 minutes when I called, and I would ask her what Ace was up to and stuff. And then she said she was going to try and get Ace to call me. I was like, wow, that'd be the coolest thing in the entire world. Yeah, I was 14, right? So one day during the summer, this is probably the summer of 86, maybe 85, 86. I go to the pool, you know, and I come home, and my dad said, someone named Ace Frehley called you on the phone. And I'm like, did they leave a message? And he said, no. And this was the days before caller ID and all that. So we didn't know what the number was. And I said, that has to be a joke. One of my friends is pranking me, right? And he said, well, he said his name was Ace Frehley and whatever. And so I took out a Kiss video that I had with an interview with the original 4 guys. My dad knows nothing about Kiss. He didn't know which guy was what. So I put the video on, and I said, if you hear the guy who called you on the phone today, point him out. Okay, and we're listening, and it's, of course, Gene dominates the conversation, and it's Gene and then Paul and Peter, whatever. And then as soon as Ace starts talking, he goes, him. That's proof enough for me that he did actually try and call, and he never called back. I didn't have a number, but whatever. So Ace did try to call my house one time in 85 or 86. So when I met all those guys back then, they were all really, really great. I mean, Paul Stanley, I only met briefly. He kind of just popped out of the dressing room when I met them on the Asylum tour real quickly, signed some stuff. I had him sign a few things, but he didn't pose for pictures with anyone or anything like that. But Bruce and Eric Carr and Gene were nice every time that I met them. They were always really nice, Eric especially. And as an aside, you know, I don't know who's ever going to watch this video, but I really feel it was kind of a slight towards Eric Carr that he didn't get to be on one of the Alive series albums. Okay, I know you can't go back in time, but Alive 3 really should have been from the Hot in the Shade tour, which Eric's last tour. And not just to be sentimental, but that tour, they were awesome on that tour. Everyone acknowledges it was Kiss's best non-makeup tour, and that they were on fire during that period. That should have been Alive 3, and that should have been, I mean, I don't know, I felt like Eric got the shaft on that one. Just, that's all I'm going to say on the subject. When he died in 1991, it was really tragic. I was so angry at the music media for virtually ignoring it. MTV didn't ignore it, but a lot of other places did. I'm glad to see the reaction that Gene and Paul had and the letter that they wrote to Rolling Stone and everything. And even today on, I think it was on Instagram, because Gene quit Twitter, thankfully. You all should too. He did acknowledge that today was the anniversary of Eric's death. So I'm glad that he's still, you know, on his mind, and he hasn't been forgotten. I mean, if you were there at that time, if you grew up in the 80s like I did, seeing Kiss back then, Eric Carr meant a lot to you. Bruce Kulick too, but Bruce is still with us, so it's a different scenario. He's still part of the picture. But you know, Eric, it feels like he's been forgotten, and that's really, really unfortunate. So when I was a kid, my best friend at the time, you know, we had a pact that if Kiss ever got back together, put the makeup on, whatever, that we were going to drop whatever we were doing, whatever we were in our lives, we were just going to put on hold, and we were going to meet up at that first show. We actually did it for the Tiger Stadium show in 1996. We had 8th row tickets, and I'm not a religious person. I know I was talking about Judaism before, but that's more cultural. That's a side note. But for me, I've never really had a religious experience prior to that. Like, that was the most amazing thing that I'd almost ever seen, and I just had this ear-to-ear grin for such a long time, despite the fact that it was pretty chaotic up there on the ground. Even though we all had chairs and stuff, they were plastic chairs and they were tied to one another, so it was kind of chaotic. It was a little rough, you know. I lost my friend at one point during the show. It was a struggle to find him again. But it was just so amazing, and it was just such a culmination at that time, 1996. I'd only been a fan for 13 years or so, of just finally seeing it. They sold out Tiger Stadium. It was back. So I loved it. I saw all the reunion tours. I saw them numerous times on the first one, Psycho Circus. I saw the farewell tour in 99 and 2000. I mean, hell, I wanted to be there so bad, I subjected myself to seeing Skid Row without Sebastian Bach and Ted Nugent, and I sat in that arena for the entire time. By the way, one of the shows on Psycho Circus, I was able to get front row in Milwaukee, and we were standing like right in front of Ace. I know it's a dream for a lot of people to be standing front row, but it's awkward sometimes. Like, you got to be like pumped up because they're expecting you to be like, you're right in the front. You better be fucking going crazy. And if you sort of sit there or what, I mean, you're making eye contact, and it's not like you just think they're looking at you. When you're in the front row and you make eye contact, you know you actually are. Okay? It was weird. Awesome, but weird. I'm just saying. So after that, the reunion tour, the farewell tour, I did think Kiss was over at that time. But of course, they changed course and came back and did they've been touring ever since with the current lineup of Kiss, which is Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Eric Singer as the Catman doing the Peter Criss makeup, and Tommy Thayer doing the Ace part, being the spaceman. I'm pretty much on record with my thoughts about that particular thing. Okay, the changing of the guard of the farewell tour being really just farewell to Ace and Peter and not really farewell to Kiss. Okay, and for a long time I was extremely upset about that. Just a side note on that, there's my Tokyo 2001 record. And that was an awesome version of the band with Ace and Eric Singer. So don't misunderstand and think that I won't like it has to be the original four, otherwise I don't get. I mean, I think that a lot of people mischaracterize people whose opinions are like mine. That I just wanted Ace Frehley to wear the makeup and Peter Criss to wear the makeup and different guys to wear different things. But it's a long since settled point. Nobody seems to care. And since this is the last time that I'll be able to address this particular topic, I want people to know that the reason that I'm not a fan, that I kind of, for over a decade, boycotted the current lineup of Kiss, is not because I hate Tommy Thayer or Eric Singer. I mean, look, I have a lot of Black and Blue albums. That one, I got this one. Okay, I was a fan of Black and Blue in the 80s. It's not about, Tommy Thayer or Eric Singer in particular. I mean, Singer was in the band for years. He replaced Eric Carr and stuff. So it's just different. It was just adjusting to someone else wearing the makeup. And there were so many fans that were making legal arguments, right? Well, Ace and Peter sold the rights to this or that. It's are you their attorney? I mean, who gives a shit who sold what? I mean, I'm just talking aesthetics, right? It just rubbed me the wrong way. And so I didn't see Kiss from, the farewell tour in 2000, really until about 2016 when they did the Rock the Nation tour, when I finally decided, you know what, I'm just going to let it go and see what the show is about. I mean, I have to, right? I got to let this thing go. So like I said, I did see them on that tour, and I admit I had a good time at the show, and I have a video for it. I'll link to it, but there was a time during the concert where Paul pulled the crowd kind of, and he said, how many people here, this is their first ever Kiss concert, okay? And I would say about 75% of the crowd went, wow, went crazy. This was their first Kiss concert. Well, so they were completely oblivious to the fact that there were two other people wearing somebody else's makeup, and they were doing a show from the past. They didn't care. They were having a good time, and it kind of made me sort of ease up on things of just saying, all right, fine. You know what? I can have my sort of, my opinion and my aesthetic feeling that it just doesn't feel right with those without Ace and Peter, but they're bringing this music to people. People still love it. They're still showing up by 10,000 people at a time or whatever to do it. So who am I to really shit all over their good time, okay? I won't be at any of the final shows, unfortunately. I said my goodbyes to Kiss back in 2019. This was my ticket stub from the last time I saw them at CHI Health Center, March 7th of 2019 here in Omaha. And I did a great video on that one, of course. And at the time, I was very cognizant of the fact that that was going to be my final Kiss show. Now, this was 2019. It was pre-COVID, so the tour was supposed to end in the spring of 2020 or summer of 2020, something like that. And then we would be looking way in the rearview mirror at all of this. But, of course, that took 2 years off the clock and whatever. So now we're here at the end of 2023. In a moment of weakness, I did sort of consider going to the show again, trying to figure out, maybe Minneapolis or someplace else close that they were doing. And ultimately I decided, you know what, I'm comfortable with it. I made my peace with Kiss not having the original guys wearing the makeup anymore. And I was at peace with seeing them for the final time in 2019. And I wasn't going to go to these others. I am still considering that pay-per-view though. And it's really tempting. I don't know. I'm going to approach my thoughts on the final show. Now, when I saw the End of the Road tour, and maybe it's different now in 2023 than it was in 2019, I thought the show was great and I had a really good time, but I did think that since it was the end, that they owed a little bit more time of the show to devoting to other eras of the band. Kiss isn't just one thing, okay? And they made a big point of it. They played some non-makeup era songs, but I just would have liked to see on the screen, when they're doing Tears Are Falling or Lick It Up, to show on the back view maybe the video from the band at that era. So at least there's some acknowledgement of all these other people that were in the band, two of which have passed, and And there was no real acknowledgement of that either. But I did still enjoy the show, and maybe that's changed, and maybe there's going to be something different for the final show. But I know that there's been a lot of drama for the last maybe 2 years about, will Ace and Peter show up for the final show? Will they be there? Will they be incorporated into it? And as of right now, that answer is no. I think this was Eddie Trunk who said this on his radio show, and he and I rarely agree, but I agree with him completely on this one, is his advice to Ace and Peter, RE, the final show, is just show up. Just go there. And I'm in 100% agreement. Go to Madison Square Garden on December 2nd. Go to the backstage door. If you have to be on social media while you're doing it, a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live or whatever, just go there. Don't have huge demands. Don't have huge expectations. Don't do anything. And Gene and Paul, I just don't think they'll say no. I really don't. If you're there at the last show, and especially if through social media people understand that you guys are standing outside and the fans inside are like, wait, are you telling me Ace and Peter are outside and Gene and Paul won't let them come in? Let them play fucking Rock and Roll All Night. You know, they're going to do the Kiss show that you're seeing now, okay? The current show with Tommy and Eric. They're not going to just sub in Ace and Peter to do a show for them. And and Ace and Peter aren't going to put on the makeup just to come out for a song, okay? So it's going to have to be some encore where everyone comes on. You know, it can still be Eric and Tommy, but you bring out Ace and Peter. They do Rock and Roll All Night or something. Maybe even Bruce Kulick. I know Grand Funk is playing in New Jersey like the day or two before, so get Bruce out there. I doubt Vinnie Vincent very highly, but, you know, maybe. I don't know. I doubt that. But really, with regards to Ace and Peter, I would just hope they would just show up. I really do believe in my heart that as much as they say they don't want it, that Gene and Paul would not turn them away. I just don't think it would happen. I really do. Maybe just to come out for a bow down or whatever, something, okay? It's your 50 year. This is your legacy. This is the end of the band. You're not going on any further than this. Like, there's no other time to bury this hatchet. There's no other time to do this ground. And it requires a huge ego sacrifice on the part of Ace and Peter. I know they feel wronged, and I get it completely. I love the original lineup. I like the OG, but that's not the way that things shook out. But we're here at the end. There is still a tremendous amount of scar tissue from that original breakup from Kiss back in 79, 80, and it has permanently altered Paul Stanley, I think, personally, and he cannot see those guys in any other way but as an obstacle. And I just wish for one night, I hope that Paul can get past that and they can just, you know, celebrate who they were. If it's just one song, finally, just do Rock and Roll All Night. Who cares? Or do Cold Gin and let Ace grab the mic and sing it, or fuck it, who cares? Just do it. Get them all there. And imagine Ace and Gene and Paul, the pay-per-view numbers, and then when you put it on Blu-ray or whatever, it'll skyrocket, right? I mean, think of it that way. So in closing, I'm just going to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for everything. Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, Eric Carr, Vinnie Vincent, Mark St. John, Bruce Kulick, Eric Singer, and Tommy Thayer. Thank you for everything. Kiss has been my favorite band for 4 decades, and every one of those people that I just mentioned has been a part of it to some degree or another. So anyways, I don't want to make this video any longer than it already is. It really is. I mean, end of the road, end of an era. I mean, I know Kiss are teasing there might still be something in the future. I mean, it's not going to happen. And anyways, folks, thanks a lot for listening to me ramble all this time. Please check out some of my other Kiss videos. Subscribe to my channel. And then you get a lot more content like this. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.